Welcome. Today we're going to be going over how to do a firmware update on a GC2 or GC2e panel. First thing to be aware of is whether you're doing a GC2 or GC2e panel, the process is going to remain the same. And so what we're going to do is do this video in two parts. The first part is simply going to be showing you how to set up the software on your desktop computer, with the second part showing you how to actually perform the firmware update. So the first thing you want to make sure is that you, one, have a working Windows laptop or computer, that you have a GC2 panel or GC2e, and a UPCBL2 update cable. You can pick those up at your local distribution center. So I've already got my cable and my panel, so I'm going to go ahead and start by opening up a browser real quick. I prefer to use Chrome. You can use Windows or Internet Explorer or Firefox or any of the other browsers out there. But what you want to do is simply go to the 2GIG web page. So you go to 2gig.com. Once you launch that page, it'll bring you to our home base page. At the upper right, here in just a moment, you'll see an option for dealers and builders, and that's where we're going to go. So what you're going to do is go up here to this dealers and builders section and select the dealer website. Now what you want to do is, if you haven't done so previously, is register for our dealer page. It's free to do so. It takes just a couple minutes, but then you'll have access to our tech bulletins, all of our PDF manuals and guides, as well as software updates. So I've already created an account, but if you hadn't, you can just go down here to this register link. But I'm going to go ahead and log in. And once I log in, I will be at the main dealer page. Okay, this is where you can see, like we said, tech bulletins, the help number if you need, and things like that. The next step to do is going to be to download the software. Now that can be located under support materials under the firmware section. Now for today's example, I'm just using a GC2e panel, so I'm going to go to use that. I'm going to go download that firmware specifically. Okay, if you're doing just a standard GC2, then you're going to do the UPCBL2 firmware. If you're doing a GC2e, then you need to do the firmware for that one specifically. So once you click on that, it'll pull up the main page for downloading the firmware. There's a screenshot of the cable that you need to have. Okay, there's the instructions we can download. So I'm going to go ahead and download these instructions so I can have these on my desktop. And these are a great reference point if you ever forget. This actually walks you through the same process as well on how to set this up on your desktop. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and download those. Okay, I'm saved to my computer. And then I'm going to go ahead and press the back arrow to go back one page. So what I want to do is be back at this main page, because here's where I can actually download the software. So today we're going to download English. The process is the same whether you're doing French or Spanish. So I'm going to go ahead and click the English download, and it will download a zipped folder. Now that we've downloaded the zipped folder, we can simply go to that folder's location. So I'm just going to use this little up arrow, but the other way you can go in is through your File Explorer and go to your downloads. So wherever your computer has downloaded that folder is where you need to go. So for me, it's going to be in my downloads. And you'll see here we've got the update instructions as well as the firmware. Okay, and it's a zip file, so the first thing we need to do at this point is unzip that file. Okay, so you can simply right click on that and hit extract all. Now usually some people like to put this on their desktop. I prefer to just leave it in my downloads folder, whatever your preference. But I'm going to go and hit extract, and it'll automatically launch that folder for me and show me those files that have been extracted. So here we have 3 files that were in the zipped folder. The first one I always want to run just to have a double check is going to be the CDM21228 setup. And what this does is it makes sure that your computer has all the necessary drivers to communicate with the update cable. So I'm going to go ahead and double click that to run it. It may ask if you want to confirm this execution. You may get a prompt. I'm going to go ahead and select yes. And it should run the update for the drivers here. Okay, and just follow the prompts to go ahead and extract and run the drivers. Alright, so now that we got all of our drivers made sure that our computer will work functionally, we can go to the next step of setting up the actual software. So the next thing you want to do for setting up that software is simply create a shortcut for the panel's firmware file. So you'll notice that there are two files in here called rflashd. One is going to be for a TS1, meaning the secondary keypads, while the other is going to be for the CP1, or the main control panel. And that's the one we're doing today, so we're going to go ahead and right click on that. And with newer Windows, sometimes it doesn't show the option, so you may have to click Show More Options. But the option you're looking for is Create Shortcut. So at this point, I'm going to create a shortcut right here within this folder. Some people like to hit Create Shortcut on the desktop or things like that. Doesn't matter either way. But at this point, I've got my shortcut, and that's the most important file here. Now, the next thing we need to do is find out what COM port our update cable is going to utilize. So to do that, you simply take your update cable and you'll plug it into your computer. Okay. Now, one thing I do like to note with that is, in order to identify it, you need to pull up your device manager. So let me go and pull up my device manager. And you can search it on most of your Windows, but you'll pull up your device manager to be able to see your COM ports and what port the cable is going to be utilizing. So right now I have not plugged the cable into my laptop, but if I go down here to ports, COM, and LPT, and expand that, you see it's got one right now, it's showing. But as soon as I plug in that update cable to my computer, there'll be a refresh, and you should see a new additional COM port number. Now keep in mind, if you don't see one, you may need to run that driver update again, and you may need to restart your computer. But at this point, you can see here I've got USB serial port COM9, so I need to make note of that number 9. Okay. For everyone else, it may be the same number, it may be different numbers, it all depends on your computer. Okay. So at this point, I can go and close Device Manager, go back to my shortcut file, and I'm going to right click on that and go to the Properties section. So in Properties here, you'll see a target file option here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is scroll to the end of this target file, okay, and simply press space, put a dash, the letter C, and then the number 9. So I'm telling the computer that to send the software through COM port 9. At that point, I'll simply click Apply and then OK. Once we have that process done, you can go and verify that you set up the software correctly by simply double-clicking on the software, the shortcut that you created. And you may see a message that pops up, depending on your computer settings, asking if you want to run it anyways. So go ahead and say yes. And at this point, it should pop up a window indicating that it is ready to do a firmware update. So you'll see a screen like this. It'll say Update. It'll have No Panel and Not Connected. And at this point, you're ready to go to actually flash your panel's firmware. So follow us on our next video to be able to actually show you how to process the firmware update on a panel.